and welcome to Beauty and the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now, today's special guest is Dr. Brenton Koch. He's a facial plastic and reconstructive surgeon in private practice in West Des Moines, Iowa, where he grew up, and he's been in private practice for the past 23 years. Now, Dr. Koch has received several awards and recognition throughout his career, one being the honorable designation of top doctor by Castle Connolly Medical Limited, making him one of only 5% of doctors in the U.S. who have met the requirements or the standards needed in the areas of education, training, hospital appointments, malpractice and disciplinary history, professional achievements, and special expertise. Now, Dr. Koch speaks often at the medical conferences on the clinical side, but he's also an awesome speaker on all things customer service related, staff related, motivating staff, being a leader. So I really wanted to get him on and talk about a lot more about practice management. So Dr. Koch, thank you so much for joining me on Beauty and the Biz.
Thanks for having me. This is great. Thanks.
Absolutely. So just a quick trip from fellowship to private practice. What was that journey like?
Fellowship was with Steve Perkins in Indianapolis. I'm an Iowa kid growing up. And so I went to Drake for undergrad, Iowa for medical school, Iowa for ENT residency, and then was lucky enough to get that fellowship. And then I joined a facial plastic surgeon in Des Moines, Iowa. And I was with him for 7 years. And then there was 8 years on my own, essentially, after he retired. And then I have taken on a partner, and now 2 years ago, our second partner.
All right, so back to when your partner, were you partners with that other man, the other facial plastic?
Yep. Oh, I was an employee for, I think, 12 months, and then it was partnership. And
okay. So when he retired, you bought him out? He just handed it to you? What was that?
Ours is unique, and I did the same thing with my partner that I took on, and it was a buy-in, but there was no buyout. And so it was a series of payments over about 6 years, I think it was, that I made that buy-in. And then when he was done, whenever he decided to be done, he walked. That was it. And so we wanted to avoid the fight and the negotiation and the legal wranglings of what this is worth and what you're going to pay me and that kind of thing, because we'd watched too many practices do that. And so I set it up the same way with mine, and it's worked out great. Obviously, you have product and things like that on the shelves and stuff. And, I paid him for half of that because he had already paid for it. Those types of things you work out, but it worked out great to do it that way.
That is very unusual. The closest I've heard is a big group in Dallas where you pay $500,000 to get in, and then you get $500,000 when you leave.
Sure.
Then you had something
very similar. Yep.
Yeah, because a lot of surgeons, I don't know if they can just walk away with nothing.
Right? Yeah. Well, you've collected a lot, over the years, and you're fortunate to be there. So, but yeah, I have benefited from the second partner now buying in as well. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and we should talk more about that. So why don't you just go ahead and describe, by the way, let's first talk about your building. It is gorgeous.
Oh, thanks.
Well, can you describe your building and then who's in it and all the providers and services?
Yeah. That was one of the big risks that I took. Probably, if there was a risk in my practice that I took, it was that building, because I bought that property, not the building, but the lot in 2008. And if you know what the economy was like in 2008, I guess I was probably oblivious to how that might affect plastic surgery and that type of thing. Fortunately, with what I was doing then, and Des Moines' demographic and things is a little bit shielded from some of the economy fluctuations. But I bought that lot in 2008. The building was finished at the end of 2009. It's a 10,000 square foot, 2-story building, and we put our practice in the lower level. And then half of the upper level is a dentist, an endodontist, and half of the upper level is a financial planner up there. However, they are now moving out, and we're moving our entire spa portion of our practice up to that. So that will be freestanding in that 3,000 square feet. And then my surgical practice will have the entire 5,000 square feet on the lower level.
Very nice. The good part about 2008, you had to have gotten a good deal on the land, right?
Correct. It was absolutely a good deal on the land. Yes. Yeah. I think it was $155,000 I bought the lot for. And to think back now for that it's crazy to put this building on there. So yeah.
Such a good investment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you know you were going to grow into it, or are you one of those people like build it and they will come kind of guy, or
Well,
like?
I thought I overbuilt for sure. And now looking back, I did not. We are packed to the hilt right now, and we're moving the spa up to a portion of the upstairs, and we are still cramped. And I'll be completely transparent. In one office, there is myself, Cody, and Mike, my other two partners. We share an office because we're all believers that you don't get paid sitting in your office. You get paid being out there treating patients and doing surgery and that kind of thing. So I had a bigger office when I was chief resident at the University of Iowa ENT residency. So
I was going to say so much for being the boss, like the big
right,
cheese.
exactly.
It's even worse
Oh,
now.
yeah, I tell people all the time, I say I'm the boss, but I'm really not. My name's on the sign, but that's as far as it goes.
So back to building it. One thing that keeps coming up is building your own space. Any tips that would be helpful? Anything that you ran into that, like, permits are always, it seems like a big deal. But
Oh,
any tips that that helped you or wish you had known?
yeah. Well, you mentioned permits and those types of things. There will be hiccups. The destination's the same for everybody, but the travel is different, and there will be bumps in the road, and there'll be turns and curves and things like that. Just expect those. The other thing is, looking back, I would say, build bigger than you think you will need, because I have yet to see a plastic surgeon living under a bridge somewhere homeless because he overdid it on his practice or his building. I've never seen that, but I know a lot of them who wish they had more space now later on in their career. And I do too. I'm one of them.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that dentist better be careful. It looks like you might have to give an eviction notice pretty soon.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he has a good deal. And dentists are very good tenants because they build certain suites for, their dental surgery and things, and so they sign long-term leases and things. I think his initial lease was 12 years. So,
Oh, wow. Has
yeah.
he been a nice referral source for you?
To some extent, yeah. I mean, he's great. He does root canals, so
Oh,
root canals and facelifts don't cross over a whole
right.
lot. But he's a wonderful guy, and he's a great endodontist. So that's been great.
Has parking been an issue at all?
Yes, would you negotiate the most parking you can get, because your practice will continue to expand, and you'll need it.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's coding requirements, and you're gonna need more than you think anyway. But yeah, you'll need it.
I usually hear that the parking, I wish I had gotten more. I wish I negotiated more.
You are
And
exactly right.
if you can negotiate the outside signage, because frankly, you need your name all over that thing, and you need
You're
everyone
exactly
to be able
right.
to see it from
And
miles away.
where they enter from a main street as well. So negotiate signage, not necessarily, you might be buying into someone else's, grand lot, and then you own this lot within that. Negotiate signage out where the main turn in is, as well as on, you control your building, of course, but negotiate signage out where the main drive is. Yeah.
And was that like, how far are you from a highway? Because foot or car traffic is pretty nice to have. Are you anywhere near?
Well, Interstate 35 is about maybe an eighth of a mile. The exit for the main West Des Moines exit for all the shopping district and entertainment district is it's probably an eighth of a mile from where my practice is.
Okay.
So I was very lucky to get a lot there.
And did you take that into consideration when you're picking a location?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because that's where people go to spend. I mean, that's where people go with discretionary income. And you want to pick an area where people use that, and I, pick an area of the city where people want to go or are comfortable going to.
Mm-hmm.
If you're hidden in the back of a small building up in the third floor, but your parking is in the back and it's hard to get to, and then people are confused and they're calling your office, how do I get there? That's just not good PR in my opinion. So yeah. Frontage counts for a lot, just like in plastic surgery.
Did you know it was going to be a growing community? Like at the time, was it fairly barren, but you knew it was growing?
It wasn't barren per se. That was the very last lot. It was actually a dry cleaners owner. He owned a chain of dry cleaners, and he was expecting to build on this lot a new dry cleaning kind of complex.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2008 hit, and that was that. And so he unloaded the lot to me, and it worked out great.
I was in a practice in Pennsylvania, and the surgeon was thinking he should relocate. And as he's saying that, I look out the window. They were building a Whole Foods, and I said, "Don't go anywhere."
Don't go anywhere. Exactly. Yes. Go where people want to go anyway. So you're
Right,
exactly right.
right. So talk about now you're building this kingdom here. You've got two new surgeons, and you have another cook in the kitchen. I've
Yeah.
practiced that all day. There's another Dr. Cook.
Yep. That's my
Tell us
nephew.
about that.
Yeah. He's been with me 9 years. Well, 10 years now, 9 years, I guess. And that's my nephew. My oldest brother is 18 years older than I am. And so Cody and I are Cody Cook is his name, and he's fantastic. And he's been a great partner. So we've been partners now for 9 years. So it's been great.
I have never heard that before. And the
Mhm.
father is not in medicine?
No, 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 no. He has a number of ventures all over the country, but yeah, Cody's been fantastic, and it works out great in that my love is cosmetic, the artistic kind of types of surgery, and my practice is probably 98% purely elective cosmetic surgery. He loves reconstruction, cancer reconstruction. He'll do 12 reconstructions in a day, and he's a machine, and it's great for the city to have him, and with the demographic and the aging population and the skin cancer kind of demographic, he's busier than he could ever imagine. So works out great to have, that we're kind of polar, but it works out great. We got all the bases covered.
And then you've got the neck down guy. You've got the plastic surgeon. So
Correct. Yeah, we just added him to about 2 years, coming up on 2 years ago, and he does exclusive like body, body work. So yeah, he's been great. He's a super nice guy. So it's been super. And not all partnerships. I mean, people bump heads and stuff like that, but Cody and I had to make it, or we would hate each other at Thanksgiving every year. So
Do you think it's easier or harder to work with family?
I think it's much harder. Yeah, I think it's very difficult because you have to make some serious decisions with regards to a business, and when you bring personalities like surgeons together, that nobody's confused that there's a lot of strong personalities as we are, and we've bumped heads. There's been some, you and no you, and those kind of, expect those in a partnership, and don't let them break you apart. Build from it and know that you'll have disagreements, and that's just part of a partnership. It's part of a marriage, it's part of a partnership, it's part of anything. So you grow from it.
Starting to think we all should have a life coach.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because you get in your own head and you don't have enough perspective when you're that close to it. There've been rock and roll bands that had a life coach on the bus with them. I thought that's a brilliant idea, by the way. But anyway, so are you a dictatorship, or are you a democracy, or how are you running it now that there are three? Two is
Oh
tough.
yeah. No, it's a democracy for sure. And after 23 years that I've been in the business, I am more than happy to let them make the primary decisions. Of course, I have a vote. I own a third. I own that portion of the practice, of course. But I remember being with my partner, who was wonderful, that I initially joined, but he was toward the end of his career. And so for me to want to grow the practice and to go this way, he was wanting to go this way in his career. Thus, the spending and things for the practice and marketing and that type of things, we kind of clashed on. And I remember telling myself, when I get to be his age or when I get to be the senior guy, I'm going to remember this and not be the anchor dragging behind the ship here. So I mean, you just go with it, and there's a lot of changes we're making with the practice and expansions and things that we're doing that I will certainly contribute to financially, but probably never really see the grand scheme, down the road part of
Well,
it.
what's an example of that?
Um, well, some of the laser type investments, those types of equipment and the build outs for the spa upstairs, and thus then when that moves on, we're putting 2 more surgical suites on the other side where the spa was. And so, I won't be doing this for 10 more years, I can tell you. And so the long-term aspects of the benefits of those, I won't see, but I'm still contributing, financially to it, but good for them. I remember being on the other side of that and watching someone grow what you started, essentially, so to speak, is a wonderful thing too. It's like almost like watching your kids take off and be more successful than you were. That's a wonderful thing.
Well, I've seen a lot of times in the practices where maybe the new guys don't care about the market. No, they care about the marketing. They don't care about the business. And the older guy has learned to care about the business because he
Uh-huh.
wouldn't have gotten that far without it. So as long as you share values and everyone's doing what they're good at, it seems like that works. That's a nice blend, you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
Any secrets to making this work? Because not many
I'm
of
kind of an
them.
outlier on that one because my partner Cody is very analytical. And
Mm.
so he is all over the balance sheet and the income statement and really kind of calculating this and our expenses, this and our collections here and there. I have been kind of a shoot from the hip. Yeah, let's go for it. I don't care if it's 2008. I'll just build the building and I'll just, you know, give more talks and do more things and people will come in and, you know, and it worked out. He's not like that. It is very calculated. So we make good partners that way, essentially, because like you'll see on social media and things, you'll rarely see him. He's fantastic at it. He's a wonderful personality and he's fantastic at what he does. But that isn't his thing. I love doing that. And I love, we do those in one take if you see much of our social media stuff and
We're
it's
going to
fun.
talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That what about the other guy, the Dr. Carlisle? Now he's also a younger guy. How did you blend well right away? Because now there's a third personality involved.
Right. Yep. He was a person that we referred a lot of patients to.
Hmm.
And so we were referring as facial plastic surgeons, the two of us, people would ask us, who should I have? I would, breast augmentation or breast reconstruction or this type of thing. And it was literally daily that we were referring patients out for. And we wanted to we made 2 offers to 2 different people, right? Plastic surgeons out of residency.
Mhm.
And they both went to Florida because it's warmer there. But Michael Carlisle he had been at Mercy One, the large hospital group in town for 6 years. And he was looking to get out from under the umbrella of that into a purely private practice. And he actually approached us and he was one of the guys that we would refer to anyway. And he's been wonderful. So I'm very, very fortunate with regards to that. I've seen lots of colleagues that have, kind of bumped heads on things and as it happens. So I've been lucky.
The chances of it working out are not good for
Right.
all sorts of reasons.
Mhm.
I have learned it's about a 2-year. Don't make any big decisions for 2 years because the new guy, he needs to get his bearings, But then
Mhm.
by 2 years, that's when he starts saying, I could probably do this on my own, kind of thing.
Right.
So Do you have non-competes in place, or, did you get all legal with this, or it's more?
We did, well, I didn't with Cody because that's my family. You weren't, that was a fine line to walk, and I wasn't willing to do that. And with Dr. Carlisle, he had been in practice in town for quite some time and was very well established. So there was that was a non-issue, like a non, that we're not touching that. That's not an option kind of thing. And it's worked out fine. So,
Okay.
and I think that you need to create a practice where someone doesn't want to leave. If someone is in there and they want to get out, you maybe need to look into the way you're doing things. You know what I mean? If you're churning through partners over and over, maybe you're not just unlucky. You know what I mean? So it's introspective, introspection's good. So
do you meet regularly about the business topics?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's probably the three of us kind of sit down kind of thing at a minimum every 2 weeks to get all three of us and our practice manager in the same room to kind of go through kind of bullet points of the last 2 weeks and, the next steps and things. That's the minimum, but there's other impromptu meetings that happen. So
communication is everything, and
it
shared
is.
values, Is Dr. Carlisle also from Iowa?
He's originally from Detroit.
Close enough.
Yeah. So Midwest, I guess.
He's got the Midwest. I'm from Chicago, because I can't lose my accent. And I have that work ethic that you're just the Midwest people have that. I remember when I first moved to California, people, if they said we were going to meet me at 8 a.m., I thought we were meeting at 8 a.m. And it turns out, no, I guess it's 9 o'clock, or it's whenever the hell they feel like it. And I was so surprised about the work ethic. And I was so like, a lot of people don't mean what they say or say what they mean. That really threw me off. I love the Midwest for people. In those days, people were just very real, very honest. They worked hard. Probably they worked too hard. That's a problem. That's the one thing I can't shake. Like you just work hard,
Right. And as through the talks that I've given and the books I've written and those types of things, and people go, what do you think? What's the secret to marketing? And what's your secret to success in your practice? There's no secret. Show up when you say you're going to show up. Do what you say you will do. And if there's a problem, follow up. I've always, for 23 years, given my patients my personal cell phone number. I didn't when I first started out, because I came from a university environment and whatever. Oh no, they go through the answering service. Once I started doing that, people called me less.
Absolutely.
Because he's such a nice guy. I don't want to bother him. And, and to say that being kind is your best malpractice premium you can pay. People don't get mad at or sue people they like. They sue people they don't like. So you signed up to be a doctor, be a caregiver. It's health care, not health bill and collect money. You just do that. Don't run behind. Nobody can run a muffler shop and you tell someone to show up at 8 and then they sit in the lobby until 9:30. They would go out of business. I don't know why doctors get away with that. I just don't think it should be that way. I guess, so I think that's my secret. As I grew up a farm kid and I worked my ass off when I was a kid, and that's what you continue to do. Work your ass off and show up when you say you're going to. Do what you say you'll do and do it well. So there's the secret.
I couldn't agree more. Let me ask you a sensitive question, because this comes up a lot. When I consult, I only consult on the fun side of medicine, only cosmetic. And when a practice is also doing reconstructive, there's a balance there, because the insurance will take up a lot of the staff's time and focus. And then you've got people pulled in different directions, and they have to keep switching their mindset. Like there's a difference between a patient that's really seriously has a problem and someone who wants a Botox, So Like, is there anything, like, are you segmenting them at all or blocking time for different things, or how are you handling that in your practice?
That's a good question. And the majority there are a lot of patients. Those are primarily with my partner, the insurance type of patients primarily, and mine are primarily, and we both cross over. He does cosmetic stuff too, and but so there's a bit of a dichotomy there where with insurance patients you tend to schedule shorter appointments to get more people in. When there's more people with cancer and holes in their face that you need to reconstruct, you can't sit all afternoon and see 4 consults. You can't do it that way. You have to keep things moving. It's a bit different with cosmetic surgery patients that are paying a great deal of money for an elective case that they're choosing to purchase in advance. And it's much different. And the other thing is at surgery centers in postoperative recovery and things, and training the nurses in advance that remember, this person isn't here because they have no other option. They need to be, their knee is shattered and they have to be here. Mm-hmm. They're choosing to be here and they've paid you in advance for care. And so I don't really treat people differently, but there is a different way to treat them and there's a different expectation from the patient. And if you know that beforehand, it's much easier to just guide through and keep everybody happy.
So you're careful about scheduling. That would be a big one for sure. Do you keep the patients separate from each other? It's very difficult for a filler patient to sit next to somebody who has a serious cancer issue.
Exactly. You can't, there's blood dripping out from underneath the bandage on the side of their face. And she's here for an expensive filler and Botox treatment. That's a difficult one to negotiate. We have 2 separate sections of our waiting room, and we do our best to do that because the check-in for certain people are on 2 different ends of the front desk, but they'll cross over. I wish it was better, but we just don't have the space to do that. So,
gotcha. So I've been watching your social media. How many staff do you have?
We have a total of if you count the 3 part-time or off-site people, there's 33, I think, in total. So
some people just like fainted because most doctors do not want to manage 33 people.
Right.
And 33 personalities.
Yeah.
How are you handling that?
It's not easy. And yeah, you learn your lessons, and you over time, after 23 years, there's some personality clashes and there's drama, and it's sometimes the junior high girls volleyball team in our practice some days. And I admit I don't know the answer to that, but you do your best. And I think if you give people autonomy and you give them a sense of ownership in the practice, too much micromanagement, I think, destroys people's motivation. When you're constantly over people's shoulders and things like that, dictating about this, move that patient, get this patient in there, but that kind of thing. It's more of we need to speed this portion up, and we should see this segment of patients before 3:00. And what do you guys think about the best way for this? We seem to bottleneck at about 2:45 each day in clinic. What do you guys think would be the best opportunity for that? You have to remember that they're there by choice, right? And that's also your best investment you can make in a practice is your team. That they represent you. They probably communicate with the patient more than you will. And so that we have a very high employee cost and payroll and that type of thing. But I still think that's your best investment, because you're not constantly turning over unhappy people. We have people that have been there for 20 years and 15 and 18 and 16 years. Those are the type of employees. And during the pandemic, we did not let people go. We rotated people in because cancer reconstructions have to continue to get done. Facial traumas continue to happen. We had to do those, but we didn't need 33 people. And so we paid people the same, but they still had a role and we rotated people at different times. So people weren't full-time, but they kept their benefits by doing that. And we lost no one.
Wow.
No one moved on after that pandemic. That was risky. None of us knew how long that was going to last. And it was a good investment. It costs to keep on a staff like that through that much time when the collections aren't rolling in the equivalent, but it was a good investment. And I'm glad we did it that way.
So how did you learn first, do you have any tips on hiring people? I noticed in your social media, you said we're hiring. Has that been helpful to post that and get some people to show up with their resumes, or is that helpful?
Yeah. Yeah. Say it straight out. I don't know that you need to, all the advertised websites, Indeed and all of the great, more power to them. But we do a social media post, and I think your reputation means a lot. And when you're known as a practice that pays people well, and you're known as a practice where they have good benefits and a 401k plan and a profit sharing plan and generous things like that, then hiring doesn't become a problem. People request, do you have any openings? We get those types of inquiries, and we're lucky that way. Now, of course, Des Moines is a very wealthy city with the insurance and financial services. All the companies that are based, they're second only, I think, to Singapore in the insurance and financial services corporations. Wells Fargo's based there, Principal's based there, Nationwide, Travelers, all of those. They're all home offices there. So it's a wealthy city, and that helps a lot with kind of to drive our business and things. But yeah, that everything plays a role. But treat your people well, and it's the best investment you can make.
Do you bonus them?
We do every year, and that's a fine line to walk, because once you do a bonus, then if that bonus isn't that or more next year, it is like, whoa, that's an affront to them. Then they forget that it's a benefit or a gift, so to speak, and it starts to become an expectation. That's tough to manage. The most unique bonus that I ever did, and this is when I was on my own, and during that 7 years when I was by myself, I just had a harebrained idea, but we started at January 1st, and we're coming up to the end of June. And I noticed the collections, and I've always set goals in my mind and written them out for my life and for my practice and that type of thing. And we had a collection number that was going to land at the end of June. And then usually the second half of the year through July, August, September, at that stage of my career, would slow down. And so I knew that probably wasn't going to be the same as the first 6 months. But I said, if we can double this and exceed it by this amount, I will take everybody to Cancun. So every full-time person got to take their spouse, and every part-time person, they got to go. And we did it was just an all-inclusive, thing. And I had, we had it all kind of dialed in case we hit that goal. But once I announced that, you could see people. Now, we could get you in, we could get you in early, or now, would you like to come in for this? Now, you've had this, do you need a refill of this? I see you purchased this before. All of those things started to churn with people when there was a goal in the offing, and this was 6 months off, But we did hit that goal, and it was a fun trip. We did it about a month or two after we hit the year end, and it was fun. And I think it cost me probably $40,000 to take everyone there like that. That was the best $40,000 I've probably spent in my practice ever.
But then the big question is, so then what happened?
Right. Well, then, they were asking about it the next year, and I was,
They were.
I've made jokes about, really? I mean, come on, that's kind of, and then that went by the wayside. But I have suggested it since with my other two partners, but they're like, you're kidding me. I think I had 10 or 12 employees back then, though. So, you
Okay.
know. Mhm.
There is a practice I know who also did the trip, and then they couldn't take it away. So
Mm,
every year they do the trip, and now they're complaining. It's just become, it's like the holiday check that you give somebody. It just
right.
becomes, expected.
Yep.
So there's a saying about that too. First it's appreciated, then it's expected, and it goes on and on. But I don't know if there's any big, real answer for that, unless if you're telling them to hit a target. I mean, people are really focused on that. Like I am, give me a target and I'll hit it.
Right.
So I like the goal setting a lot.
Yeah.
Um, Perhaps you could do something on the ground, closer to home or something.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. So
So
I don't know. That was a unique one, and it worked. But yeah, there's no way we could do that now to shut down a practice for 6 days like we did and go. But that was fun anyway. So
yeah,
that was
well, and it's good for your social media too.
yeah.
So you could look at it as a business, and you could write it off. It is a business.
Mhm. Yeah, it
Anyway,
was.
looking back now, like running a practice, what has been the biggest challenge?
Whew. Managing people, managing the team, keeping 33 people focused on the same thing and managing the day-to-day drama and the day-to-day this. She said this and I'm not going to sit by her anymore or this and she, I don't mean that way. It's just it's ongoing and it's just an expectation, and as long as you know that that's part of the deal and you don't take it too seriously, you don't take yourself too seriously about it. Everything my dad used to say, he's gone now, but he used to say everything works out 10 minutes before it's too late, and it's the truth. just Man, I'm a warrior. I've always been a worrying person and very high anxiety person, and I guess it drives one, but he was right. And the older I get, the more I understand it. So
It's really funny. I've never heard that before.
yeah, well, you can print that at the bottom. Everything works out 10 minutes before it's too late. There you go.
So, you said you're like, you do have an exit plan? Like, are you pretty solid in, I'm going to work only this much longer and then I'm going to go play golf kind of guy, or what?
Yep. My youngest daughter is a freshman at the University of Texas, and we just 2 years ago got this home that I'm in now in Saratoga Springs, New York. Of course, we have our home in north of Des Moines, and yeah, I would love to maybe 5 years, 7 years, something like that, move on when there's no one else in my family in the Des Moines area and that kind of thing. So.
Are all the
Yeah.
kids moving away?
Yep. Chicago, Denver. There's an ICU nurse in San Antonio. There's one applying for graduate schools in Texas. There's one at the University of Texas. My son's a mechanical engineer in Des Moines, but planes work too. So
Not one of them followed you into medicine?
no, the youngest one at University of Texas is kind of considering that, but we'll see. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because they'd have a nice cushy opportunity there if they.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, I don't know if I'd use the word cushy, but yeah, that would be great. Medicine is not cushy, and if you want to go into it for the money, don't go into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have lots of financial planner friends and executive friends that far exceed, what I do that way, but it's been fun. It's a satisfying thing when people say, thank you for, what you did for my daughter, or the change in my nose changed my life, that kind of thing. That's great. Just getting a thank you note, at Christmas time or Thanksgiving. It's just wonderful.
Well, it's transformational.
It is.
You are
Yeah.
changing lives. So
Mhm.
good for you.
Yep.
We're going to switch gears and talk about marketing. Tell me, in your area, is it a competitive market? I must say I don't know many. I know one other surgeon there, I think, but how competitive is it?
Cody and I are one of five board certified facial plastic surgeons in the entire state of Iowa. So we are the only two of those in the city. So that has been quite beneficial. And people have what's the saying? The riches are in the niches.
Yes.
And I even say that in my talks. The more you focus your practice down, the busier you will get at what you like to do. And if you like to do rhinoplasty, focus down on that, and that's what you market is rhinoplasty. If you don't like doing laser resurfacing, why are you marketing it on your website? Why are you plowing that out there? So I think just remember that be in the niche and make yourself a niche. And I always said I only do faces. I do the same 7 surgeries over and over and over, and that has reaped benefits for me. So,
Well, speaking of which, your S lift, you are doing a killer job on your videos. Frankly, on your social media, I just want to look at your videos. They're so educational and instructive. You have the real patient there. You're a really good explainer, and you're showing this S lift. And sign me up for heaven's sake. So,
thanks.
has that been a really good lead magnet for you?
Yeah, it has, and it just
I
start
want that too.
all it is it's just the name we've given it for short incision. I mean, a full-blown facelift is kind of an antiquated thing and big sweeping incisions and so we just back when there was a transition out of that, I said, well, let's call this a short incision lift or S lift. And that's the way it went. And then as social media, kicked in more, it's fun to explain things and talk about it and have patients demonstrate and demonstrate things to show people that, it's a safe thing. It's done. The majority of mine are all done in the office, probably 95% of them. I'll do 4 to 5 a week in the office and among other things. So yeah, it's been fun to do. And I love it. I just like focusing in on that procedure, and it's my favorite thing to do.
I would just stay there. I mean, I'm thinking because people are getting older. When you look at those videos, you can tell you're in your office. It doesn't seem like a big deal. You're the patient. You can see they're literally transformed within like the 1 minute, because I love that you cut and then you go to the end. And those are very good. I would
Thanks.
just keep doing those. That's
Thanks for saying that. Yeah.
the best ad you could ever do is this educational video, and the women are just, you have this one patient that's a friend of yours, and she was so pretty afterwards, and I mean afterwards, the next day afterwards,
Yeah.
because you really, I don't know how you're doing it, or I don't know if it's just marketing, but it just looks so simple, it looked like it would look easy. It looks
Well,
simple.
thanks for saying that. It's not. Yeah, that's a deep plane. That's a deep plane facelift, and that's a 2.5 to 3 hour procedure. And I tell people it's real surgery. I don't want to sugarcoat this. This is real surgery, and everybody's got the same destination, like I mentioned, but the road is different for everyone. But yeah, it's when you do it over and over and over and over, things get more dialed in. So.
Well, you also do are you still doing your own injectables?
I do. Yeah, I like it. And I think having injectables as part of your practice and being the person that does them,
Mm-hmm.
it I probably half of the surgeries that I schedule are people while we're talking about the Botox I'm doing I'm doing the Botox, and they go, since I'm here, I've thought about this a long time. Look at this 4-finger lift that I do in the mirror in the morning. Well, let me tell you about that. This is what's involved with this. Tracy can give you a quote on what that would be, and Kelly, my nurse, will be in to give you more details. And probably half of the ones that I schedule come from injectable patients. So I think that's a vital part of the business. Plus, it's artistic, and I like doing it. It's technique dependent. There are good injectors and there are not good injectors.
I was
So
going to say, you're showing a
Yes.
video where you're crushing it in the periorbital part and this corner of the mouth. The woman is much older. She needs a facelift, but she doesn't want one. And she's got the downturn, unhappy smile mouth. And
Mhm.
within 1 minute, less than 1 minute, you have grabbed your filler, and your technique was brilliant, because every time I try to fill that up and turn that smile upside down kind of thing,
Yeah.
or however that goes, I look like a chipmunk. They fill me in with golf balls. And I think you need to make a big deal out of that, because your
Oh, thanks.
technique was what the difference was.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's very technique dependent. So I tell people, go, there's a difference. Well, this house is less expensive than that house. Houses are different things. This one has 6 bedrooms and it's made of brick, and this one is a ranch with 2 bedrooms, and that may be less expensive, but there's a difference in the details. Don't bargain shop with your face. Yes,
Yeah.
tell people.
Well, I love that you're showing them the difference, because it's very
Oh,
difficult
thanks.
to describe or even brag about, well, I'm really good at this. So
Right,
just
right.
show them. And
Yeah.
I mean, you have me sold. If you could just
Oh,
come
thanks.
a little closer to San Francisco, that would be terrific.
All right. Yes, it's
So,
that easy. Yes.
so what about marketing? Do you still have to market? I don't think you do, but does your practice need to market at all, or?
It's mainly social media, which is far less expensive and it's far more fun. But I will tell you, I have tried it all of it, print marketing and TV and radio. And through 23 years, I've tried it all. And you still have to try, particularly if you're a young surgeon starting out. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You have to keep throwing darts before you hit the bullseye, or if you don't throw any, you're not going to hit it. You have to keep trying and doing things like that. But yeah, over time, like I said, show up when you're told to show up, and do what you're supposed to do, and then get your name out there and be a kind person, and you'll do just fine.
So is there anything in particular that you like doing now? Like obviously social media was new for you. By the way, how much time are you spending on social media?
Me personally, uh, uh, minutes.
Okay.
I mean, you see those videos and they're done in one take,
Okay.
and then maybe I'll do maybe one in 2 weeks later. And I did one, I think 2 days ago, of the product that I use, Revox line relaxer, and I talked about that a little bit, and she's going to edit that. And okay, yeah, I'll talk about it. And that's it. That's all I do. So
So you're just using a staff person with an iPad and they're handling it?
yes, it's an in-house person her job is partially patient care coordination and some of the quotes and some of the insurance stuff, but she has a social media background, and so she has part of her pay is primarily to do all of our social media. Her name
Okay.
is Kylie, and she is fantastic at it.
Well, I can see it's very entertaining, by the way. Like, because your
So
staff,
please, all of you out there, do not call my practice and try and hire Kylie. No, she's off limits stuff.
you do know that's almost the hardest hire to make, with social media, because of that work ethic thing. I used to be really good at hiring coordinators and office managers,
Sure.
and the social media, I say, you know what, I'll do what I can here, but I'm not I'm not guaranteeing anything, because there's a chance they'll show up, maybe not, I don't know, but it's been
Yes, yes, I've been there, done that. Yes, and yep.
So I want to talk about your VIP Skin Health Club.
Mhm,
Yours is 1950 per year,
mhm.
1,950 per year. I have never seen one that high. So just tell me about that. What was the thought process where you want a big chunk of money? Do they pay it all at once,
Yes,
beginning of the
yeah.
year?
Pay one time a year, and then you get a facial per month. You
Okay.
get some discounts on the skincare products. You get discounts on some of the other peels that they choose to do, and then there's a discount on injectable fillers and those types of things. So that said, you have all of those options, and it's much like the world of gift cards.
Okay.
Not all of them get used.
Mhm.
And so people don't, it's a rare VIP that shows up every single month for that facial, or takes or focuses in and buys that much to cause any kind of dent financially on it, meaning to overuse, go past what they've paid.
Mhm.
It's always a benefit, and those are the bigger benefit is that's a dedicated patient. That is a viral patient for your practice. That is an advertisement for your practice. That those they want to be there,
Mhm.
and they are a very important patient, and they've paid for that privilege, and they get it. And we have a couple events each year, it's champagne events and things like that for them, and almost all of them show up. It's fun, and it's year after year after year, and it just continues to grow. So it's been a good thing.
So a lot of people renew?
Oh yeah, very much so. And frankly, a lot of spouses will give that as a gift each Christmas and things. That happens a lot too.
That's a great gift. Yeah, I'd
Mhm.
love that. I noticed you do a holiday party now. So you know how the events, we used to do a ton of events for a long time, and then it kind of got old, and then COVID happened. And so
Yeah,
are they back?
not
What's your
really.
take on the events?
Yeah, we've tried those in the past, and I was always underwhelmed by that thing to, I no, I don't know. I don't have a long answer to that one. I've been always through my career underwhelmed by demonstration events and evening events and that type of thing. That's a very limited demographic that wants to do that.
Hmm. Don't you think social media kind of
Has
replaced it?
replaced it? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an event. You can simply open your phone and learn about it. There's no point in going in. Yeah, I think it's replaced it completely.
I've watched some practices do virtual events.
Uh-huh.
So they'll do like a Facebook Live or Instagram Live,
Mhm.
and the doctor's walking around, like they have balloons and everything, but the
Oh,
doctor's,
right. Yeah.
yeah, so he's being the host, and he'll say, "Oh, let's do some computer imaging. Okay, let's go over here and do a raffle." Like, and it was really, really interesting. And
Oh, yeah.
I know for a fact they made a killing on that. They got like
Yeah.
700 leads from it. But he's that kind of doctor though. He had a huge
Sure, sure.
following, super entertaining, but that's
Yep.
a great way to do an event where nobody has to come in person.
Right. Exactly. And that just remember that's a fine line to walk on who you publicize. Walking through a room with lots of people at a plastic surgery practice.
Mhm.
y- My take is you better get permission up front from every single person that your camera will pass by, because that can pop up too. You know what I mean? So
Right
just
at
an
the
idea.
door, right at the door, you have to say,
Yes.
these photos you could be showing it on the internet for the rest of your life. So
Exactly. Yeah.
beware.
Very good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you learn the business and marketing side of plastic surgery?
Ooh, by practice and failure, and try again and try this and then try again, and my undergrad degree is actually in finance, and
Oh,
so that has helped me in business a lot. Is that I had a different kind of mindset from the start going in. I got to my junior year in cost accounting and tax accounting in undergrad, and I thought, oh my gosh, I am so out of bounds that's when I switched to do the prerequisites for medical school. But the business mindset and setting those goals and knowing that marketing is important for any business stuck with me, because there's an old saying that the two worst managers of money are doctors and ministers, because
oh,
they have a lot of money to manage, but they have zero training in managing money. And it's the truth. I mean, I learn early on the basics about reading an income statement and a balance sheet, and knowing, because that's if there was mistakes that I've made, or things that I've overcome, it's has to do with that type of thing. Mhm.
I'll bet.
Can I go into that? Like, one of the if one may ask, like, because I've been asked by other folks, like, what was probably the biggest mistake you realized? We had and I've had probably 3 or 4 employees over 23 years stealing from the practice via cash, via a check written, or those type of things. But I had one that had figured out that when people purchased a gift card with cash, that she could hand out the gift card and then put it into the computer as $0. So the drawer, she would take the cash. It was a zero entry into the computer as a gift card sale. So the drawer matched the entry in the computer. So she was taking the cash, but the gift card was worth zero. And it was close to $100,000 that she had taken that way over time. And there was I had a separate freestanding spa at the time, and this is where this occurred. And I was watching the monthly numbers and things from my accountant, and I said, something's not matching up here. There's the collections, but where something's not matching up. And my accountant said, no. He goes, you realize your payroll's high and that type of thing. And I hired another accountant to do an audit, and that's how we discovered this. And she ended up in jail. That was a felony theft.
Oh my God.
And
wait a second. Why didn't you notice sooner? Because somebody would have come in with the gift card, right? And it wouldn't have matched up in your computer.
That was starting to happen, yeah. Okay. But as the saying goes, about 50% of gift cards get used. Restaurants, anywhere, people buy gift cards, but half the people don't use them.
So you literally took her to court?
Oh yeah. We discovered this going on, and she was, still working. It was probably 4 days I was with the Des Moines Police Department. And then we were showing because I hired this outside accountant to do an audit, and he kind of went through their forensics people, and she left in handcuffs about 4 days later. So yeah, and it was quite a theft. That was a huge mistake that I was just kind of going along and trusting. You don't trust people, but she was a wonderful person outright. And we all thought the world of her right at the front desk. And here she was the entire time stealing from us over the course of about a year, two. It was about 18 months, and that's just the parts we could verify. I'm sure there's more. So, but that'd probably be the biggest mistake, or the best advice I would say about mistakes is an audit costs less than not doing an audit. If you suspect something's going wrong, you know what I mean? Paying for that audit by a separate entity, it may seem like an expensive endeavor, but it is probably saving you money by discovering this. So,
did any other staff come to you and say something weird is going on, or was it
they noticed that she was logging out and then logging back in, logging out, and then she would use someone else's login to log back in and then do this zero thing, and then find out someone else's login and then log in and do a zero. So that way it even showed that it wasn't her every time.
Oh my.
So it was even harder to kind of find out until those employees, those coworkers with her, discovered that they were logged in on that computer when they weren't, when they never did. And then they started to question that. That was the initial trigger is, I think she's logging in with my login and I don't know why. They mentioned that to our manager, and then it is just tumbled from there. So
I don't know how you have a straight face or work with people all day and steal from them on the side. I just don't understand that.
It happens though. And, I would say always just be on your guard. You run a business and it's still a business. Between 8 and 5, you're a business person. So
well, they always say at the meetings, if you haven't been embezzled yet, you either don't know it or it's coming,
Yeah, so exactly. I don't know of a person who hasn't.
Right. Either do I, actually.
After all these years. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. We should start a list of all the ways you can be embezzled, because the criminal mind is getting very creative with these things.
Oh, right.
Lord.
One of mine was the office manager at the time, and we had a health savings plan where we, if the initial deductible was this amount, then I was paying so if they exceeded that, they would pay the deductible, and then I would write a check for the difference in what we offered them as a deductible.
Okay.
Well, then she then wrote a few more checks to herself for that. And when in fact she didn't have that, and that was the end of that office manager. So that's more small time, but people will think of ways, and they'll think of new ways all the time. You have to always be on guard about that, and you have to be vigilant and watch as a business owner, still
Right.
to this day.
Well, they say the paranoid survive or something or whatever.
Yeah.
It is
And
helpful to be paranoid.
manage by walking around. That was the MBMA or whatever, that kind of, go in on a Sunday.
Okay.
And you own those desks, you own the drawers, and you own everything in them in that business. You own the computers they're using, and you own the emails that have your name at the end of it as part of the email.
Mm-hmm.
And so examine them. And one Sunday afternoon, I opened another it was the spa manager's drawer. And this wasn't outright theft. This was just cluelessness. But some of the product that the rep had brought in, the injectables and things like that, was just getting plopped into some bottom drawer in a file cabinet. And there was probably $60,000 worth of retail injectables that had just sat there and expired because she just forgot about them. And I just opened the drawers. And I'm like, what is this? This has been there this whole time. This was retail product that is now, so open the drawers and manage by walking around. You gotta look.
What's more likely is a nurse taking all that product and having her own deal on the side.
That's true too. Yes.
Yeah, the smart one would have done that. The stupid one left it in the drawer.
Right. She just forgot about it. So you're right.
So
yeah,
last question.
She wasn't evil. She was just stupid. So.
Tell us something we don't know about you that's pretty darn interesting.
If you go to a bar or you go to a private party and there is the guy providing the music, it's a guitar player over in the corner who's singing and playing guitar. I do that.
No.
And so that's fun to do. And I don't, really, tell people my name and that kind of thing. It's just fun to do that and play a lot of 70s stuff and some Chris Stapleton or some John Mayer and the people in my key and things. And it's fun to do
sing too?
Private parties and things like that, and just be the guy over in the corner that does that. So yeah.
But are you singing?
In the background, there's about 3 or 4 guitars back there in the corner with the microphone stand back there. So
oh my God, that's so great.
That's where I practice here. So yeah. Right.
Are you singing or just playing the guitar?
Both.
Mm-hmm. No kidding.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap it up now. I really appreciate it. I will see you again at the next meeting, right? So keep up all the good work. Everyone, that's going to wrap it up today for Beauty in the Biz. And then if you've got any questions for Dr. Koch, now you've got 2 different websites at this point. You have kochmd.com. So it's KOCHMD.com. And what's the other website?
There is Cook and Carlisle. And then there's Faceplace Iowa is I think is the Instagram. There's a number of them, but if you Google, my name in Des Moines, Iowa, they'll all come up. Yeah, I just did Cook MD Iowa, and you come up really quickly. And if you got a lot out of this, please give us a review and subscribe. And then if you've got any questions for me, please leave them on my website at KatherineMaley.com, or you can certainly DM me on Instagram at KatherineMaleyMBA. Thanks so much, and we'll talk again soon. The fastest way to success is to model other successful surgeons who have what you want, but you can only see their results, not the path they took to get there. So you continue to jump from one thing to another, hoping to find something that will work for you too. But it rarely does. So try this shortcut instead. It's guaranteed to move you forward. I compiled my intellectual property to grow cosmetic revenues, everything I've gleaned over the years, into one playbook of the most successful practices and what they do to win. Go to cosmeticpracticevault.com and let's grow your cosmetic revenues.